Well, welcome to the next in the series of producing Atelier of Power workshop events. This is continuing the series of successful actions and the comedy of errors of people producing now, in the past, or in the future. So this particular sequence is Archetypal Constellation rules. So sometimes we have archetypal constellations as promotional events. Probably we will very rarely have them because few people are actually prepared for anything so dynamic, so powerful. However, the rules are simple, but these are the simple rules that almost nobody actually wants to follow. Now, in an archetypal constellation, people represent different parts of a system, different parts of a person. Sometimes I represent the different sides of the brain of one person using two people. Sometimes I represent the two eyes of the person. Very often the visceral mind, the emotional mind separately. I may represent the sperm and the ovum that generated the person, and many, many, many other possibilities. So we have a simple rule that if you already know something really clever, there's something good you do with that. You keep your mouth closed. If you already know something, don't say it. The idea of an archetypal constellation is that the system has the new information. If you already know something about somebody or something, that won't help because the truth will set you free. And if what you already know is true, it would already have solved the person. So that has no relevance whatsoever. So in the archetypal constellation, we're going to represent various parts of the person, and you will represent that part of the person. People in the room, usually we prefer the ones that don't know anything about the situation to represent the person. And if you're surprised by suddenly knowing new information, by thinking in a way you never thought before, that would be something the system is realizing. Another word for archetypal constellation is, of course, systemic realization. The system realizes, not the individual. So when you, as part of the system, suddenly realize something new, you may speak. Now that sounds like fairly simple rules, but on some occasions, especially if they're therapists with extremely poorly developed system of ethics, they can be in a panic to violate these rules. Recently we had a situation where there was a fairly young man who had some very severe emotional symptom for all of his life, but that nobody could understand. It wasn't responding to therapy, it wasn't responding to anything he did, and he wanted help with that. Well, that's very simple. Of course, I had people represent parts of the brain and so on, and someone represented his mother, and the mother didn't want him when he was born, when he was conceived, and didn't want him even now. Now, as soon as this information appeared in the system, suddenly his decades of symptoms vanished. Now, at that moment, somebody who said she is his therapist went into a panic and started arguing. Now, this person was arguing, no, I'm his therapist. Now, I know his mother wants him. And, well, for a start, the person's symptoms were gone. So the only thing that is allowed to be said is, what have you learned? What does she already know is not a point. So what she thought she already knew, if that had helped, he would already not have had the problem. Not only that, to be saying she's the therapist and she has information, she's revealing it, is actually a criminal act. She is absolutely not allowed by the ethics of her own society and by the rules of the country it happened in to be allowed to say anything as the therapist without a signed release form, which she did not have. And now that particular show that she put on created a headache, and then she thought she would solve his headache by flowing unconditional love to cure his headache. Now this clearly means she does have absolutely no idea what is unconditional love. I'm not going to go into whether or not you could flow something to cure a headache, but the fact is that a headache is a condition. The fact that you have something to flow to the person is a condition. The fact that you'll flow this to solve a headache is a condition. There are many conditions involved in that situation of trying to solve a headache by flowing unconditional love. Therefore, there are many conditions. Therefore, the person has absolutely no idea what is unconditional love. Clearly, because why would he have a headache? Well, because she was arguing with his results, which is extremely severe break of the most simple ethics that every therapist should learn before they're allowed to work with anybody. So that gives you a really clear idea what happens and why it should never happen, that if you already know something about the person you think, if you're holding onto a theory that you want to say in a dynamic constellation, you keep your mouth shut because you're just like a bull in a china shop, which will get really in the way of people getting any results and will waste all of their time. But what happens when you just are quiet, you will enter into the great genius that appears in the space of the dynamic constellation. You'll be surprised at the new information that appears. And as that information comes out of your mouth, it changes not only the people in the room, but the people at a distance who are connected to the person. So following simple rules of a dynamic constellation allows for great results of every single person in the room and every person connected to them, even at a distance. So that was lesson number 5, we believe, in the lesson number 5. No, it was number 4 in producing atelier of power results. Over and out.